Afghanistan in the 1980s. A country wounded, losing its lifeblood, its people. Millions found refuge in the neighboring countries, Islamic Republic of Pakistan and Iran. Faces of Afghan born to parents, grandparents who fled the war a generation earlier. Afghanistan lies in the heart of Asia with the former Soviet Union republics of Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan to the north, Iran to the west, and Pakistan to the south. The Soviet-Afghan War lasted over 9 years. Towards the end of this period, at least 500,000 Afghans were martyred in the cause, and over 7 million refugees displaced, leaving their country and seeking refuge in Pakistan, Iran, and other Western countries. Insurgent groups known collectively as the Mujahideen at the time fought a guerrilla war against the Soviet army and the puppet Afghan regime. The war started on December 26, 1979, when the Soviets' 40th Army invaded Afghanistan. Under the disguise of support for the nation's socialist government, the Soviets invaded the capital city of Kabul and put its puppet leaders into power. Ultimately, the Soviets' primary mission was to crush the growing Muslim fundamentalist movement in the country.
In the first month of the war, more than 50,000 soldiers poured through the Salang Pass into Afghanistan, and over the next 10 years, the total number of fully equipped and armed Soviet forces would reach up to 150,000 troops.
This event marks the first wave of internal displacement and refugee flow from Afghanistan to its neighboring countries. Pakistan has been home to over 1 million refugees for 40 years ever since. 1.5 million officially registered Afghan refugees and another additional 1 million unregistered refugees.
The Afghan refugee case is a kind of its own example in the contemporary world, where we find that almost at one time it was almost 5 million refugees living in Pakistan. So it could not have happened if there was not an open-armed reception by the people of Pakistan of all these refugees. So that was the kind of interaction, social interaction that it was based on the multiple relationships that Pakistan and Afghanistan and the people of Pakistan and Afghanistan are having. People have been coming and going from Afghanistan to Pakistan, but the refugees influx initially came in late 1970s, I should say, and it continued until the Soviets left Afghanistan, and then there was some hope that they will go back, but because of the civil war in Afghanistan and then the 9/11 post 9/11 American campaign in Afghanistan, the return could not take place properly.
Nasir Arman was a small child when his family fled the fighting in Afghanistan.
I remember that there was violence everywhere. I remember that people were murdered, people were persecuted, and everyone was fleeing at that time.
For him, Pakistan offered refuge and education, primary school to university. He now works in a media production company with his own radio program.
I want to serve my country, and it is a dream, to go to country and serve your own people, and that is what I want.
Nasir wants to go back soon. Like so many, he wants to end the conflict.
I'm tired of this war. It's been long, for more than 30-40 years. We were grown up in this war, and nobody wants this war. Especially the youth, they all are fed up of this war.
Mirwais Hamid, along with the help of his younger brother, have been running the business that his late father started 29 years ago when they first came to Pakistan, an Afghan cuisine restaurant which is on the outside of Peshawar in Karkhanu Bazaar. My parents first came to Pakistan 29 years ago from Kabul and settled in Peshawar from the very beginning. During my time as a refugee in Pakistan, I completed my primary and higher education here, and as of now, I manage this restaurant that has been left behind by my father for me and my younger brother so that we could support our family. He worked hard to bring us to where we are as of now, since they were refugees in a country that was new to them. For me, it's quite different, and I don't have to struggle with fitting in because Pakistan seems like the country where I belong. Making ends meet in Pakistan can be tough for many, especially so if you're a refugee from Afghanistan. Muhammad Nabi is one of around 2 million Afghans who fled the war-torn country to live here. However, Pakistan wants to return them home in a new repatriation, a journey the 30-year-old has already made before. We went back in 2005 and then came back here again in 2008. And so we're working and living our lives here. You can't imagine in what shape we returned.
Vaccination program since last more than 2 decades or around 2 decades has been in collaboration with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. And after every 3 years or later on after smaller periods, this program has been extended again and again, and a number of times the deadline has been extended because whatever incentives were being given to the Afghan refugees for their return to their country, these were not received wholeheartedly by the Afghan refugees, keeping in view that there are problems in Afghanistan, and with those problems they cannot go back. So the repatriation program on paper is there. Some money is being provided with the courtesy of United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. There has been some pressure from Pakistani side also, but all in all it has not been successful because of the living conditions in Afghanistan are not really good enough to provide an incentive to these refugees to go back.
The latest deadline for refugees to stay has been pushed back, but the rising bloodshed in their homeland is raising concerns as Afghanistan sees a wave of deadly attacks by the Taliban and Islamic State. People are in trouble, fighting is continuing. Look at the recent bomb blast that killed a ton of civilians. It's not peace, no one will call it peace. Don't you see that death is waiting for you? If you return, either you will be killed by the government or by the Taliban. So it's better to live here, even if we have to face hunger and thirst. At least we won't die. However, Pakistan is facing pressure of extremist safe havens on its own soil. It claims militants are potentially hiding among the refugees and that they should go. Such concerns are said to be genuine, but some believe that the government uses the refugee card from time to time.
Whenever pressure has mounted on the Pakistan from the Americans or the international community, the Pakistani side has come up with this excuse that perhaps this wave of insecurity that we see in the region is because of the Afghan refugees that are based in Pakistan, and one of the ways of dealing with this is to push these refugees across the border in Afghanistan so that it doesn't remain a Pakistani problem anymore.
A life in limbo in Pakistan or a risky future in Afghanistan, a bitter choice of uncertainty for refugees at every turn.